So, councillors, I open the extraordinary council meeting on the 22nd of September 2020 at 6:09 p.m. First, I'd like to have Councillor Roberts read the prayer.
Almighty God, we humbly beseech you to bestow your blessings upon this council and to direct and prosper our deliberations to the advancement of your glory and the true welfare of the people of Randwick and Australia. Amen.
And Councillor Murray Matson. So.
I would like to acknowledge that we are meeting on the land of the Bidjigal and the Gadigal people who occupied the Sydney coast, being the traditional owners. On behalf of Randwick City Council, I acknowledge and pay my respects to the elders past and present and to Aboriginal people in attendance today.
Thank you, councillors. Is there any apologies or leave of absences? Do I have a mover? Councillor Stravinos, a seconder. Councillor Veach. Is there any declarations of pecuniary and non-pecuniary interests? I declare that. We'll move on. So I still need to read the chairperson's announcement because we do have people in the audience. So in respect to Privacy and Personal Information Protection Act, members of the public are advised that the proceedings of this meeting will be recorded for the purposes of clause 5.20/5.23 of Council's Code of Meeting Practice. Audio-video recording of the meeting is prohibited without permission. A person may be expelled from the meeting for using or having used an audio-video recorder without express authority of the council. So we move on to the Director of Corporate Services report, CO 45/20, the election of the... Yes, Mr Matson.
Councillor, to you, with all respect. I move points A, B and C of the recommendation. And I move point B with the choice being open voting traditional method at Randwick City Council.
Actually, could you read out all 3 points, Councillor?
Certainly. Councillor, okay. A, that the council determine if it will elect a deputy mayor. Recommendation B, method of voting, that council determine the method of voting for deputy mayor from one of the following: open voting, traditional method at Randwick City Council; ordinary ballot; preferential ballot. I suggest open voting. Clause 3 of the recommendation, election of deputy mayor. Small I, that the General Manager, as returning officer, calls for nominations for the position of Deputy Mayor. 2, that should more than one nomination be received, the General Manager, as returning officer, read the names of the candidates for the position of Deputy Mayor. 3, that if necessary, an election be conducted in accordance with the Council's resolution made in relation to recommendation B for the position of Deputy Mayor. 4, that the General Manager, as returning officer, declare the Deputy Mayor elected for the term September 2020 to September 2021. Recommendation D, appointment of committees and delegates, that Council determine the purpose and membership of its advisory committee and appoint delegates for the period September 2020 to September 21. Is there a seconder?
Do I have a seconder? Councillor Parker. All those in favour say aye. Against? I declare that carried. So I will now hand you over to the General Manager as returning officer to call for nominations for the position of Deputy Mayor.
Councillors, in accordance with the resolution, I now call for nominations for the position of Deputy Mayor. Are there any further nominations? Councillors, it's been resolved that the method of voting for the position of Deputy Mayor will be by a show of hands. Each councillor is entitled to vote for only one candidate in each round of voting. I now have written each candidate's name on a slip of paper. and we'll deposit it in this barrel to determine the order of voting. Councillors, the nominations are, and forgive me, you're right, Councillor Nelson, Councillor Harry Stavrinos. Councillor Stavrinos, can I confirm that you accept this nomination?
Indeed, I do.
Councillor Carlos de Rocha, can I confirm you accept the nomination?
Absolutely do. Thank you so much.
Councillor Philippa Veitch, can I confirm you accept the nomination?
Yes, I do.
Thank you, councillors. As I said, voting will be in order of the councillor drawn from the barrel. Would those councillors voting for Councillor Veitch please raise your hand? Councillor Veitch, that's 8 votes. Would those councillors that are voting for Councillor Stavrinos please raise your hand? Councillor Stavrinos, that's 4 votes. Would those that are voting for Councillor de Rocha please raise your hand? Councillor de Rocha, that's 3 votes, and having the lowest number of votes, you will be excluded. Now move on to the second round. Would those councillors voting for Councillor Stavrinos please raise your hand? For the purpose of the recording, I will announce Councillor Christy Hamilton, Councillor Harry Stavrinos, Councillor Ted Seng, Councillor Anthony Andrews, Councillor Brendan Roberts, Councillor Carlos de Rocha, Councillor Noel de Souza. That's 7 votes. Councillor Stavrinos. Would those voting for Councillor Veitch please raise your hand? For the purposes of the recording, that's Mayor Danny Said, Councillor Lindsay Shuri, Councillor Kathy Nelson, Councillor Philippa Veitch, Councillor Alex Luxford, Councillor Dylan Parker, Councillor Tony Bowen, Councillor Murray Matson. With 8 votes, I declare Councillor Philippa Veitch the Deputy Mayor for the coming year.
Congratulations, Councillor Veitch. And I'd just like to ask, would anyone like to speak? Councillor Parker.
Look, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would like to congratulate Councillor Veitch on her election to the Deputy Mayoralty in light of the extraordinary times under COVID-19. A continuity of leadership across Randwick Council, in particular in the elected roles, I think is very appropriate. As such, I congratulate Councillor Veitch on her election.
Susan?
I too would like to congratulate Councillor Veitch on her election. Climate change is real, my friends, and this is the most urgent of times and the most urgent of challenges. We as a community have to address this challenge with honesty and courage. This should no longer be a political debate, but a human debate, because climate change threatens our very existence. Councillor Veitch as Deputy Mayor has done a good job to address this threat to our planet. I would say in a Greens group in Council, Councillor Veitch stands out and is a rising star in her party. She, in a time when councillors advocated for affordable housing, protections and compensation for those residents who are going to lose their homes because of the PAW hospital expansion. She has addressed social issues and injustice such as the detention of Julian Assange on yet unproven charges. She has been a strong advocate for cycleways and spoken out against high density and overdevelopment. She has been courageous enough to stand up to her more experienced Green colleagues in council who supported K2K and other projects which may have led to overdevelopment of the suburbs of Kingsford and Kensington. Her stature and influence in her own party must be on the rise. As they tell me, one of the Green councillors who supported and advocated for K2K has lost his endorsement and will not be returning to the next council next year. Councillor Veitch also proposed and supported many alternate energy projects, such as subsidising investment in solar panels for our residents. Needless to say, her strong advocacy on energy-saving policies will no doubt lead to a carbon neutral and a zero carbon emission future. Margaret Thatcher was remembered for her quote, "The lady's not for turning." It is considered a defining quote in Thatcher's political development. The phrase made reference to Thatcher's refusal to perform a U-turn in response to opposition to her liberalisation of the economy, which some commentators as well as the predecessors had urged. By sticking to her beliefs and views like Margaret Thatcher, Councillor Veitch, like Thatcher, stood firm and refused to be turned by two councillors in a party when it came to K2K and high-density development. By staying true to herself and her beliefs, Councillor Veitch has turned out to be one of the most effective and influential Green councillors in this council. I would once again like to congratulate Councillor Veitch on a job well done as Deputy Mayor, and I wish you all the best in the next year. But I know, Councillor Veitch, the best is yet to come. If your party continues to support you and you do get re-elected to the council at September's elections next year. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor D'Souza. Any other councillors? Councillor Matson.
The Green councillors wish to congratulate Councillor Veitch. She was the unanimous choice of the Randwick Botany Greens at our last scheduled group meeting. It was with great enthusiasm that we accepted her nomination, and we know it's going to be a very difficult year. A year prior to the elections is always tense on any council, but I have the uttermost confidence that Councillor Veitch is actually the best choice for tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Matson. Councillor Singh.
Congratulations, Councillor Veitch. During the last 3 years, your very first term on council, you have proven to be one of the most hardworking councillors. Nobody has lodged more motions pursuant to notice than you, and that's a reflection of your hard work and your commitment to represent the community. You really deserve to be re-elected as Deputy Mayor, but this is not to say that the other two councillors, my fellow councillors, Councillor Stavrinos and Councillor De Rocha, do not deserve it, but your time will come in future. Councillor Veitch, I really admire your passion because I've been observing each and every one of our councillors here. Although you and I might not agree on every political issue, but I do admire you because you are there fighting for the community, fighting very hard for what you believe in. And this is what earns my respect. So congratulations once again, Councillor Veitch, Deputy Mayor. Look forward to working closely with you again.
Any further speakers from the floor? And then Councillor Veitch.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, everyone, for your vote and for your very kind words. It's I will treasure this moment on council. It's nice to hear some nice words exchanged. I'd very much like to give my heartfelt thanks to my fellow Greens councillors, Councillor Matson and Councillor Sherry for your support and guidance over these last 3 years. It has been often a turbulent time. And also my fellow councillors. It's been a big learning curve as a first-term councillor. There's a lot to learn, but on the most part, everyone has sort of tried to share their knowledge and experience with the newer councillors, and I do appreciate that very much. I'd obviously also like to thank my colleagues on the Randwick Botany Greens for their support and hard work, because I know that all of the councillors here know that their membership and supporters in the community, you know, make such a big difference, and we wouldn't be here actually without them. I'd also like to congratulate the other nominees, Councillor De Rocha and Councillor Stavrinos. I know you also would have been staunch advocates and done a wonderful job. So thank you, everyone. Have a good night.
So once again, congratulations, Deputy Mayor, Councillor Veach. Looking forward to working again for another year, closer together. And again, congratulations, and we'll move on. So,
Mr. Mayor.
sorry, councillors, can I just read out where we're going, and then, yeah. We will not. Oh, okay. Oh, all I was going to say was now we're moving to the committees. We're just going to read out where we're going, that's all. So just give me 1 minute. So we'll determine the purpose of the membership of the Council's advisory committees and appoint delegates for the period September 2020 to September 2021. This is proposed list for the committees, which I think, Councillor Parker, you've got a new one. Yes. You're not able to put that up? You have? Okay, cool. Councillor Parker.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Sorry, councillors, before you, sorry. Okay.
Yep, that is correct. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move the committee membership in an amended fashion. The copy which I move has been circulated, titled Proposed Committee Membership 2020-2021. In moving this committee membership, I give due regard in relation to Section 23AC of the Local Government Act, in particular in relationship to the guidelines relating to the performance and of the General Manager. In moving the proposed committee membership comprising of Councillor De Rocha, Mayor Said, Councillor Singh and the Deputy Mayor, Councillor Veach, I give due regard in relation to the fact that the Mayor is the leader of the council. The committee comprises of the Deputy Mayor. Councillor Singh is a long-standing and experienced councillor who is a former Mayor of the council and has been on this panel for some time. And I include Councillor De Rocha by virtue of extensive local government involvement as a community advocate, and I further take into consideration the proportionate representation of each group in the committee. I move the proposed committee membership and note that the committee will comprise of the above nominees and no others.
Councillor Sure, you'll notice that we've added the ones that came in during the requests for, so that should be on there. Yeah. So I'll put it.
Question.
Oh.
Can I just confirm the only substantive change was that committee you mentioned?
For the benefit of Councillor Roberts, the only substantive changes are the ones which were distributed by Mayor Said, which I believe were by consent and proposal. They're effectively councillors who are voluntary coming off committees. And the only substantive change in relation to this is the change from Councillor Andrews to Councillor De Rocha in the Performance Review Committee. Outside of that, it is the 2019 committee list in virtue of the membership on the committees.
Councillor De Souza.
Councillor Mayor, Mr. Mayor, I'm quite happy to do all these things, but we must remember the position we're in and why we're in this position and why this motion was put forward. We agreed as a group, we actually voted in a resolution for the general manager to be given the power and authority to appoint, and I would use the word anoint, her member, her pick, her councillor. It's in the code. She quite clearly in her email made it clear that the Local Government Act empowered her to do it.
Yep, go ahead, Councillor Roberts.
No, I thought the debate, isn't there a debate on? Or?
No, I was about to put it, but...
Yes, I'm speaking on the matter. I don't want to change anything. I just want to remind the people of rules in place when we voted, and we empowered the general manager to make a decision. So by choosing a different pathway, we're actually undermining the authority of the general manager. We're saying to her, by this vote, if we vote for it, that your judgment isn't appreciated. She made a captain's call. She made a choice. She made a decision. And we empowered her with that. So Councillor Andrews was a pick. Unless Councillor Andrews decides he doesn't want the job, then I'll go with the flow, but I would like to hear that he doesn't want the job. It's not that I don't support Councillor De Rocha. Of course I support Councillor De Rocha. But I also support the general manager.
What I'll do is I'll put that to the GM.
Thank you.
Through you, Mr Mayor, can I just clarify for you, Councillor De Souza, I have advised the Mayor that I do not wish to nominate a councillor to the committee to remove any bias, and therefore I have been considered under section 23A.
You haven't nominated anyone, is that what you're saying? Yeah, well, that wasn't made clear to us in any emails or any instructions. Thank you.
Councillor Matson.
Just a question through to the General Manager. As I understand it, from information already circulated and from the points just raised by Councillor De Souza, these are, as I understand it, mandatory guidelines we do need for the purposes of this resolution to establish that we have given due consideration to these changes. My view, and if this is incorrect, I would welcome the General Manager's interpretation. My view is that we have considered a number of issues. We have considered the number of councillor blocks. There's a Liberal block, a Labor block, Green block, Independent block. Therefore, it is logical that the councillors move to establish 4 councillors, notwithstanding the guidelines and notwithstanding the fact that it is customary to move over or rotate memberships of the General Manager's performance review. We have also taken into consideration our understanding of what Councillor De Rocha will bring to the General Manager's Performance Review Committee. He will bring through a direct view that is of a council worker at the coalface of interaction between a council and its residents, this being the solid working experience gained by being a ranger of a council. I would ask for your opinion as to whether that satisfies the need to establish our consideration.
I'll put you through to the GM.
Councillors, in relation to the mandatory guidelines, like all Section 23 guidelines, councils are required to consider those guidelines in undertaking their duties. The 2 variations to the guidelines, should council proceed with the motion, are in relation to the removal of a general manager's nominee and the addition of an additional councillor. I had given the Mayor a statement in relation to my decision in relation to the General Manager's nominations, and it was going to be read, but the councillors in relation to Section 23 guidelines regarding the appointment and oversight of the position of General Manager's advised that to remove any bias, she does not wish to nominate a councillor to the performance review panel. I believe this constitutes due consideration under the Act. In relation to your comments, Councillor Matson, I would believe that based on what you've just said, that's due consideration from a councillor's perspective in accordance with the Section 23 guideline.
Councillor Parker.
I wasn't going to speak on this matter, but after hearing Councillor D'Souza and Councillor Matson, I thought I would, because I was a member of the General Manager's Performance Review Committee. I've been a councillor on this council now for 20 years, and I put on the public record, I don't know what I did wrong when this committee last met. I find it quite disturbing that I've now been removed, and it's become such a public debate with emails going back and forth between councillors and General Manager, which I find quite disturbing and quite bully boy tactics here by one particular councillor, who I mentioned, Councillor Parker. The emails from Councillor Parker were inappropriate in essence. There was no need for any emails whatsoever to be distributed between councillors and General Manager in regards to this matter. If Councillor Parker had an issue with being part of this committee, I had breakfast with Councillor Parker less than 2 weeks ago. I was face to face with Councillor Parker. He did not mention this matter to me once. He did not mention anything to me. A phone call asking me to stand down from this committee would have been the most appropriate thing to do by Councillor Parker. But unprofessionally and inexperience has shown here how one councillor can cause disrepute to a council. And it's quite embarrassing what we've gone through in the last week and a half over a deputy mayor election and a General Manager's Review Committee. It's disgusting and embarrassing. I've been on this council for 20 years,
Councillor Andrews,
and I haven't seen this behaviour before in my life. And Councillor Matson and Councillor Singh can speak for this as well, over
Councillor
a position
Andrews
on a review committee. Absolutely disgusting. I need to put on the public record, Mr Mayor, because this council has been brought into disrepute by a certain councillor by his actions, and there's a political motive behind it which disturbs me a lot. And all he had to do was make a phone call. I'm happy not to be on the committee. It's not a big deal. It's not a big deal to me. But it hurt me because the way it was done. A phone call and it's all over. All over. Finished. Red Rover. No. We had to send emails to the General Manager publicly. It's disgusting. And I ask that this behaviour not be repeated again by this council, and let's all work together for the benefit of this council. That's what we're here for, not to play political games. It's not Macquarie Street, Councillor Parker. You're not
Councillor Andrews.
This is Randwick Council.
Councillor Andrews, thank you. Councillor Cervinos, you had your hand up, and then Councillor Matson.
Mr Mayor, quite frankly, I have no problem with what is being proposed tonight in changing Councillor Andrews in exchange for putting on Councillor De Rocha on the GM's Performance Review Committee. But I do want to say a few things, because going back to what Councillor Andrews said earlier, I agree with a lot of the sentiments of Councillor Andrews. In November last year, this council agreed 9 votes to 6 to put an independent on the GM's Performance Review Committee. And from memory, at that meeting, the independents agreed that Councillor Andrews would be appointed to that committee. And at that time, nothing more was said about it. It was a council resolution. It was passed by this council that was what was going to be agreed upon. Now, I was quite frankly shocked last week when I saw a series of emails that were distributed to all the councillors, virtually, and I can tell you, the first thing that came into my head, Mr. Mayor, was the fact that as councillors, as a board of directors of an organisation like we are, it is our job to set the strategy and to implement and to analyse the risks associated with that strategy. It's not the job of councillors to interfere in the management and the administration of this council. And I felt that as councillors, we had overstepped the mark. We had overstepped the mark. And I think it's disgraceful. I really think it's an absolute disgrace. It could actually put this council into disrepute. To suggest that, I mean, at the end of the day, the guidelines state, the Code of Meeting Practice states that the GM has a discretion to do what she did. To do what she did. So I don't see what the problem is. Really, I don't. I don't understand it. We had a meeting here, we all agreed on it, and because the Labor Party didn't like that decision, they now decided to play political games with who was going to be appointed to the GM's Performance Review Committee. That is a disgrace. That is a disgrace, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Matson, Councillor Matson, do you want to speak, or will I just put it?
I think it's best that we just put it at this point, Mr. Mayor.
So, councillors, I put the motion to you. All those in favour say aye. Those against? There's no one against. It's unanimous. So, councillors, there's no further business. I'll close the meeting at 6:40 p.m.